Mark Watkins, thank you so much for coming on the Helping the Brave podcast today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, you say that right now. You don't know. It's not over yet. All right. We're doing this day after Veterans Day. Thank you for your
Yeah,
service.
thank you.
And I would recommend that if you want to get on more veteran podcasts, if that's what you want to do, go into your thing on Podmatch and add that under the guest tags. What I
Okay.
had to, a lot of people don't. I started to. I was starting to get on more of them, but otherwise we have to, like search all of them, and then if down in your little thing says you're a veteran, and that's how it found you for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just
Okay.
because there's a lot of veteran-centric podcasts, and a lot of people, well, I haven't been in forever. It doesn't matter. It's still, a lot of us are business owners or do different things, and we've learned from our military service how to do that stuff with our attention to detail, our standard operating
Right.
procedures that we understand. And that's why I try to explain to everybody, if you're listening, if you're doing this, make sure you include that, because that is a huge, important part of who we are.
That's right. That's good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. So I always ask this question. I already know because I read your stuff. What service and why did you pick it?
I was in the Air Force. My, um, I guess, attraction to the Air Force really was directed by my experience in college at ROTC. It was one of a couple options, and I had a few buddies who were in Air Force ROTC. I never really considered pursuing that. My grandfather was an Army vet, and I enjoyed, hearing about his experiences. And I think just the combination of having some friends that were in it, I enrolled in ROTC for a few semesters. I was pursuing a pilot slot, and at that time they had changed the obligation right before I was beginning to make a commitment to 8 years, and I knew I was going to be getting married right out of college, and so I kind of pulled back. And then after college, couldn't get into the field that I was looking for, which was law enforcement, and went down and talked to a recruiter, and they could talk to me about delayed enlistment, which was attractive to me because I did want to do law enforcement. So I ended up doing security police in the Air Force, and that's how the Air Force came into my life. But I really enjoyed the experience and glad I went that route because it did give me what I was looking for.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize. I mean, a lot of us, I looked at it because I thought I wanted to be in the medical field, like the doctor or whatever. So I went as a corpsman just to see if I even liked the medical field. And
Right.
luckily I did like it, but I realized it's not what I wanted to do. And the problem is a lot of people put a lot of time into college and then realize they don't want to do that. Attorneys and
Yeah.
a lot of people like that. Because I have a lot of friends attorneys, and I asked them, they go, I would never be an attorney again after being an attorney for as long as they are. All right. So did you go in as enlisted or officer?
I went in as listed. I did get some credit for my time in ROTC, went at E3, and I was in basic training in Lackland, and they came recruiting. I had it's put on my wish list. I want to go to Lackland, and a team from Andrews came out and was recruiting. It sounded real attractive. It was considered a special duty assignment, so if I signed up for it and was selected, I had to commit my 4 years to there just because of the security clearances and things that they invest in and the training. And so I was selected and went to Andrews as security police law enforcement. And that was really the intent, was get into law enforcement so I could get some experience. So when I got out, I would be able to land a job at a local agency. At the time, they weren't hiring, which is why I, considered the Air Force to begin with. So
And what years were you in?
from 90 to 94, so Desert Storm. I know I remember when I was in basic training, just seeing the planes, just one cargo plane after another flying over, and of course that all went down pretty soon after that. But post, I guess, liberation, if you will, I went over during the time where Operation Southern Watch kicked off. The no-fly zone kind of time frame was when I was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, just doing what I did at home, basically on the air base in Riyadh, um, uh, for a tour there.
All right. And so you were in for how long? 4 years?
4 years. Yep.
And while you're in, was there anything that was unique that you did while you were in? And I don't mean that wrong, but you said you're security force. So I mean, most of us are thinking you were police. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was something other than that. So,
Well, we, you know, Andrews is home of Air Force One, and so that was a really neat experience. We, regardless of whether you're security forces or security side or law enforcement side, it's called security forces now. But um, we all participated in the presidential security aspect of that. That was one of the things I was alluding to earlier. We had to get a Yankee white security clearance, which allowed us to be in close contact with the president, and so we worked hand in hand with Secret Service anytime the president came in or left, whether it was through Marine One or a motorcade. And um, one of the fun memories I have, I was there for like the last years of Bush Senior and the first years of Clinton's first term, and President Bush and the Bush family would um, vacation in Kennebunkport, and the only base near there was Pease Air National Guard Base. It was closed, but it was non-operational. I mean, there's still a skeleton crew there, but we would fly up with them. So go up with Air Force One and basically just work physical security for Air Force One. It was kind of a fun experience to say, you kind of went up with the president up there to do that. But we were an airlift command, so we did deploy to, like I mentioned, Saudi Arabia to provide support, doing what we were doing at an air base there. Really physical security for refuelers, base security for where we were staying, that kind of thing. But it was a really interesting time frame too. Part of the law enforcement side of that is entry security at the gates, and it was a normal day to be at a gate and see Norman Schwarzkopf come through, or Dick Cheney, or any of these people. You see them constantly on the news, and they're just rolling through in their car coming to meet with somebody. But it was a really neat experience. I love being in Washington D.C. We try to take advantage. A lot of times when you live somewhere, you don't really do the things. We did everything that we could, and it was for me, it was a fun time to be in the nation's capital, and a lot was going on during that time, and a lot of great memories for what was going on. But it was that, to me, the location, the things that happened to Andrews, that was really what kind of made it. That's why I selected it, or at least tried to get to Andrews, just because the way they sold it.
and so when you got out, did you go in law enforcement?
I did. So went to school got a degree in criminal justice, which I tell people a lot of times when I hear them down, I was like, don't waste your time. But anyway, that was my intent, was to get a degree in criminal justice, um, to go on with a local law enforcement H1. I graduated. Nobody was hiring. I looked all over the state or area. There's just nobody hiring, and so I was kind of really not getting any traction with that. And
And that
had
was in
I
the 90s, right?
Yeah, that was '89, actually, was when I graduated. So it'd been the summer of graduated May of '89. Summer to fall of '89 was when I was trying to get on with the PD, and
And the reason I
thought
bring
about the
that
Air
up,
Force. Yeah, go ahead.
the reason I brought that up is because I tried to get on. I got out in 90, and I tried to get on with LA. And what people don't realize is back then they had affirmative action. And so it was
Hmm.
very difficult. They had to fill slots with certain people, and if you weren't that slot, you didn't get picked up. And that's
Yeah,
what was so bad about affirmative action. And I'm glad that we don't have it again today for
yeah,
everybody.
it's interesting. I've not seen a season since then where there's been an environment in the law enforcement field where they're not hiring. It seems like they're always hiring, but for whatever reason, I thought of the Air Force. I've been removed from ROTC for about 2 years, probably, maybe going on 3 years, and went down to talk to a recruiter. They said they would give me, a little bit of credit for what I did do, but also the delayed enlistment was really attractive. So I wanted the experience in law enforcement, which I could get if I waited. This was August of '89. I went in May of '90, and went in with the intent to try to get experience, test the waters again. By probably the end of '93, I could tell things were changing, and so in '94, when I was due to get out, I had multiple agencies that were interested in hiring me, so I was able to go pretty much where I wanted, but it was a different environment at that time. So I went straight out of the Air Force into local law enforcement with my hometown PD,
And what hometown is that?
Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Okay, so you're in North Carolina.
Yep.
Okay, from the hurricane that came through and all that stuff?
Yeah, my kids were semi-affected by that. It was an interesting experience for the family to kind of rally around the folks that were impacted by that. I went down and just joined in with a couple of my kids at different times where they were serving to help. My son-in-law gathered up a bunch of his buddies, and they just like the day after, 2 days after they were going down, rescuing friends, friends of friends, neighbors, just doing what they could. And Asheville, especially, which is where one of my kids live, it's just devastation. It's just hard to really understand the long term effect of that. And but North Carolinians are resilient, and they definitely rally around when things like this happen. The response has been just overwhelming in a positive way.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing happens to us, but it's a 4 or 5. I'm in California,
Yeah, right.
Modesto. So the biggest thing that happened
Yeah,
to us that just would be something close to that was that park fire that we had that, and then the other one that hit some places in San Jose and then over that way where destroyed everything. But you guys get those things all the time,
yeah. It's
yearly.
always, I always, it's kind of a philosophical question, but like, what's worse, water, wind, or fire? And you say, well, it's water. What about this wind event? Oh, well, what about this fire event? And it's just, it's all devastating and it's unfortunate, but
All right. So you see,
yeah.
how long were you in the P? Are you still in the PD, or how long were you in the PD?
Uh, no, so I stayed with Winston-Salem for about 4.5 years. I had some buddies do a lateral over to a neighboring agency, as is not uncommon. The political environment in my town was shifting. It was becoming more hostile towards law enforcement, I felt, and it just was impacting the ability to do our job. A lot of it was around the tools that we had, the resources that we could use to do our job, and um, the environment felt different in this neighboring town. And some buddies who were close friends, like, "Hey, come on over here. The grass is greener." And so I made a lateral transfer as well. I always joke and say the grass wasn't greener; they just spray painted it. It looked that way, but it was different in some ways. But it was part of my journey. I spent pretty much all the '90s in law enforcement between Air Force and the local PD, and at this other agency, I became aware of a software company that we had just begun using for like our records management, uh, and had started working on a degree in computer programming. And this agency was local. This company was local, so I went and talked to them and ended up going on with the software company. And we specialized in software for public safety agencies. So at that time, we were hiring people that were police officers and firefighters and dispatchers that had a technical ability, and the company just kind of grew from there. Um, I spent 18 and a half years there as either a software developer or software development manager. But at this point, it's everything from the laptop in the car, the mobile reporting in the car, to my focus is on the jail management system. You call 911, they're taking so the whole thing from 911 down to putting them in jail. We had software that handled that, and I just got burned out of it. Corporate America is a
This
lot
is
of
bad
what people
PD.
think it is. Yeah. And so I probably for the last 8 years of that just was trying to find direction and really getting the courage up just to leave. Honestly, I felt like I had very limiting beliefs about what I could do, and felt like I'd grown into my role over time and my pay and my benefits that there was no way I could replace it, which was stupid, but that was my limiting belief at that time. And um, the year my oldest son graduated, we did a trip to Alaska, something we'd always talked about. We spent a week out in Denali camping in the backcountry, and I went on that trip with the intention of getting clarity about what I needed to do. When I came back, I knew I just needed to walk away. Gave him about 2 months notice, and I'd been dabbling in real estate investing and stepped into that full time. And I did that for a couple of years. It really wasn't what I kind of the glamour of it went away when I did it full time. When I was doing it part time, it was fun and exciting. Um, and then landed at Chick-fil-A, which is where I am currently. It's been almost 6 years, and now I'm looking at what my exit from that looks like in the store. I've ramped up a consulting business that I want to start that exclusively partners with Chick-fil-A operators. And so I'm working it right now with my operator that I serve in a multi-unit situation to find my replacement. And once I've onboarded them successfully, I'm going to lean into this a little bit more. I'm right now just trying to get a little bit of traction in this calendar year, and then we'll put more effort into that once I have my replacement in place. Just trying to be fair to my team and honor my operators' freedom to give me the space to do this. So,
So let's back up a second. So when you say word
yep,
operator, do you mean owner of the fran? I mean, because the
yes,
franchise is it a franchise? Okay.
yeah, that's correct. We use interchangeably owner operator. Sometimes they're used together. But yeah, Chick-fil-A is a franchise, and they select local uh, franchise owners who operate the store. The facilities are owned by Chick-fil-A Inc., and operators can come and go. They can be replaced in and out of the store. Like if one retires or one dies or takes another assignment, they bring in somebody to manage the operations until another operator is put in place. So they're not connected to the physical business. They have their own entity that runs the business, but um, the owner operator is that local business owner that's who I work for.
All right. So I think that's a unique situation because most franchises you own, except for McDonald's who owns the land, but most
Right.
franchises you own the franchise and that location, and you're responsible for the building and other stuff. But other ones they build all that out, and you're telling me that Chick-fil-A owns the building, all the stuff, and then
Yes.
the person who runs it is interchangeable. Where the person who runs it, their entity runs that thing, but that entity can be changed at any time. Is that what
Yes,
I'm
and
hearing?
it's I mean, yeah, that's correct. I mean, there's it's a rare occasion that Chick-fil-A would force them out. But there are a lot of scenarios where an operator would leave to take on a different. Maybe they want to relocate, take on a different concept type. There's a lot of reasons, but it's also very common that because Chick-fil-A does own it, that they will do what we call a scrape and rebuild. A building is 10, 15, 20 years old. Its capacity is limited. The sales are limited. The guests are frustrated because of those service limitations. They'll completely scrape it down, completely rebuild it, re-equip it with the intent of improving its capacity and throughput and implementing the latest technology and kitchen design and those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
that's part of the luxury of owning it. They can come in and upgrade it.
Well, see, for us, we've only had them for the last couple of years, so they're all new.
All right.
Yeah, in California.
Yeah,
So there
that's
is no
right.
old ones. There's only new
That's
ones.
right. That's
Uh,
right. And
and
they'll
that's
do
why it's all new
remodels
to us.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
We have what?
Yeah. They'll do remodels as well. A lot of stores used to just have a window. It's very common to go in and remodel the cockpit of the drive-through and put a door in, expand it so it's 2 lanes all the way around, install the canopy, change some things in the kitchen. They'll remodel as long as they'll do that first until it doesn't gonna make any difference, and they will scrape it down and rebuild it. So
All right, so you support the owner operators, using
correct.
those terms, and how do you support them?
So, in my current role, I'm a multi-unit executive director. So we have someone in each store that oversees those operations, and then I oversee those. So I'm report directly to the operator to um, be his main person over the operations of both stores. My intent with the consulting is to partner with operators across the chain in a way that helps them, elevate their teams, streamline their operations. Because I came to Chick-fil-A as I did, which was the director of an area of the store, and then learned my way through the store over the last uh, 5 or 6 years to understand everything about operations, everything about food safety, about being profitable and productive. And one of the things that I had to learn about Chick-fil-A is that they care about certain things that are regarding the brand. So they care about the brand, extending the brand, protecting the brand, They want the guest experience to be consistent. They want the food quality, food safety to be consistent. If you go to a Chick-fil-A where you are and where I am, it should be the same taste when you bite down into that chicken sandwich. And beyond that, they do acknowledge, say, this is a local business owner. We're going to give them autonomy to run their business the way that they see fit within our branding guide rails, within our expectations about guest experience. And so, as a growing, a new leader having to figure my way through, I realized this that some of these resources I wanted, they weren't available from Chick-fil-A because they're empowering the local operator to answer that solution how they see fit. So I create a lot of solutions, I create a lot of tools to help me fill those gaps. And so what I'm doing now is taking those out into the chain. I feel like um, I would be more my service would be beneficial to newer operators, but there are some more seasoned ones that could benefit from it as well. Just because they're going to be going through the same process as I did to figure out these systems and implement systems and figure out a way to develop people, ways to just bring accountability into an organization. And so this partnership with them is to come in and find out where they are, what their gaps are, what their needs are, and together work to customizing a solution because every situation, every store is different. I don't intend to take a cookie cutter approach just based on my in-store experience, my years of being in operations. I know where they need to be, and then I can address their specific unique situation, customize, tailor a solution for them to fill that gap.
So my question would be, what what is that you so what is lacking in most stores for the owners or operator, whatever you
So
want? I mean,
yeah,
that is
so
what is just give me
yeah,
an example. So because people aren't gonna
sure,
understand, 'cause
sure.
you found your perfect client, which is operators
Mhm.
of Chick-fil-A. However, the
Yeah.
question is, how do you niche that down more, or have you thought about that? And that's all about
Mhm.
branding. Because what I'm
Yep.
hearing when you're talking, I'm like, okay, is there a way to take what he learned from Chick-fil-A and give it to some and teach other people the same type of branding and support of that brand and other stuff?
Right.
And because I talk about all the time branding on other shows, brand, and now on this one because it's weird. A couple of my podcasts, this is Helping the Brave, which is about us once we take our uniform off. But what we've learned in the military works really well in other things. And we all get into business. A lot of us get into business and we need to know
Right.
about how to do our brand, how to be the authority in our industry and other stuff. So the question would be, I know I threw this out here very long, but I've been listening to you for like 10 minutes. So I got to get some words across.
There
But
you go.
how is there a way to take what you've known and now found another niche to help other operators of other types of maybe franchises or just businesses to help them understand
Mhm.
how important branding is?
Yeah, I think there's 2 areas that are universal, and it's systems and people. And um, I feel like most new operators are so underwater because a lot of operators, when they're starting out new, it's a brand new store, brand new team. They don't have a lot of depth in their leadership. And that's not going to necessarily be unique to Chick-fil-A. If you're starting a new restaurant concept, you may be able to find, some senior people that you can bring in. But at the end of the day, what operators are struggling with is identifying and raising up leaders and creating systems that are sustainable that allow them to do what they want to do with excellence and do what they want to do without them being the solution to every problem. And I think that's something a lot of business owners gravitate towards is feeling like they're the solution to every problem, and they could be, but that's not sustainable. I try to follow philosophy and teach my leaders something that came out of a book called Next Generation Lead by Andy Stanley, and it's only do what only you can do. And if you think about an organization, all the things I could do pretty much all of it, but then who's going to do what I only I can do? And that's what I want operators to get to faster is being able to pull up and equip people to do those things. And the systems is real big, especially around food. Food safety is huge, and if you don't have systems, you're not going to be able to deliver quality food safe. And I think that I believe the question you're asking is, yes, all of this is relevant outside of Chick-fil-A because it's hospitality, it's people, it's systems, and that would be relevant in not just any other hospitality context, but most other businesses. And I think what I want operators to hear is that there is a quicker path forward to get where you want to go, and what I want to help them figure out.
Well, and that was really a question for you, not everybody else on them. And the reason I'm saying that is
Sure.
because my question is new operators at Chick-fil-A, how many are there?
Well, we just opened our 3,000th Chick-fil-A earlier this year, and so they're open 1, 2 stores a week, sometimes more. And if you look at maybe an operator that's less than 2 years old, I mean, you're talking hundreds of potential operators now, and that's ever growing. And so it's a dynamic pool, but I think it is never going to slow down.
No, I'm just asking because
Yeah,
that's a very small niche. I
yeah,
focus on veterans and veteran business owners, and that's a really small niche, but your niche is even smaller.
right, yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's because of that, it is the type of environment where if you get traction and you're providing a good service with integrity and do what you say you're going to do, it's really easy to get that momentum because the operators do talk to each other, and so it's good to move forward with that intentionality that you're not moving too fast and you can provide that reliability.
Right. No, I was just wondering because I mean that's
Yeah,
a very small niche that with what you could help out a few other niches
yeah,
also.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because even though
yeah,
you focus on that niche, doesn't mean you won't take other people on to help out, correct?
right. Correct.
Yeah, until you're too busy to where you can't, but, and that's when
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the mortgage industry, I focus on veterans and reverse mortgages, and those are very 2 small niches, and
Mm,
doesn't mean I won't take a regular purchase, it just means that's what I put my message out to,
correct. Right. Yep.
and that's what people don't understand. You need to get your message niche down to who your perfect client is so they can come to you and only come and those are what will come to you, but it doesn't mean you can't help other people. So,
Yeah. That's correct.
Mark, nice having you on the show today. Anything else you want to add
Yeah.
before we go?
No, I appreciate it. It was I thought it was interesting coming on the day after Veterans Day. It's been a Veterans Days. It's one of those things that it. I guess every year have different feelings about it. It can stir up a lot of emotions in a lot of people, and I think the further I get from my time of service, the more I like to be reminded of things that bring that back to mind because it was a very uh, great time for me. I have a lot of fond memories of that, and I was listening to an episode. Uh, I don't know how many back it was, but just the idea of like, back when I was in, it wasn't easy to keep up with people like it is today. And
Oh, it's totally
from
different.
that episode, I was thinking after that episode, I was thinking, man, I want to find this guy. I want to find this guy, and it just makes me want to have that reconnection. I'm fortunate to have a local VA clinic here in my hometown, and that's where I go for my healthcare. In fact, I have my annual physical on Friday, but I just love going there, and it's so neat to just no matter what you're doing, they're always like, "Hey, thank you for your service,"
Mhm.
and just being around that campus and just yeah, man, whatever you're going through, like it's humbling to walk through there and just see how many people have you know sacrificed for our freedom. And
Mhm.
it's just I love going there. I hate going there at the same time, but I'm fortunate to be able to have that reminder. So
Yeah, I yesterday was asked to be the masters of ceremony for our veterans parade, which didn't really happen because of rain, so it was more of a inside thing, and it was very unique because the first time I've done that, and
mm,
I'll definitely do it again next year. But it was just connecting with everybody, and because for me, when I got out, there was no Facebook, there was none of that. Just like I said
no,
before,
yeah,
there was no way to stay connected, and we didn't even have cell phones. They
right,
didn't come for a couple more years that everybody had a cell phone. Back then, you only
right,
had it in your car
yeah, like a
or a
bag,
suitcase.
yeah, Yep.
And now everybody has them and sometimes people have multiple of them. But
That's
yeah,
right.
so it's totally easier now, and that's important for us to connect. And that's why I want to have this podcast to get connected to more people. Because I can find on Facebook a couple of people I know from my military service. But I also was a totally different, I was all over the place. All the people I went through boot camp with went elsewhere, and I stayed in
Yeah.
California, and I went to Camp Pendleton, where they went to the north,
Yeah.
no, actually North Carolina. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome.
So,
Well, I appreciate you letting me be on. It was a great
oh,
experience.
my pleasure. Now, and as you're listening, everybody, please connect to the people you were in the military with, however you can, and if you need,
Yes.
connect wherever you can, because it's important for us to reach out to them, because a lot of people don't realize. And I even said this yesterday, was when I started my Rotary year, I thought it was 22 a day that was committing suicide of us. It's actually 50 a day, and I explained to the
Mm,
room, this whole site's gone now, by the way,
mm,
because it's a day, right? It's
yeah.
not. And so there was a couple hundred people like, this site's gone tomorrow, and by next, and it was
Mm,
like, wow. And that's how bad it is. So please reach out. Just reaching out to somebody, whether it's a text or call or whatever, will change their lives. So please reach out to them. And again,
that's
Mark, thank you
awesome.
so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure.